Hello and welcome to another video. We've had a number of requests from viewers to give a guide on how to run and use one of our tractors. So today we're going to be giving you a guide on how to operate a Bolens large frame tractor by demonstrating on our Bolens HT23. We will start off with a couple of features of this tractor. Now, the back of the engine drives the back axle, which is a 2-speed hydrostatic transaxle, and then the front of the engine powers the PTO, which is mounted to the front axle. You can see the front shaft for powering front mounted attachments, and then there's a shaft on the back of the PTO too for powering mid-mounted attachments like this deck, or it can also power rear-mounted attachments via a long drive shaft underneath the tractor. Now for attachments, front and mid-mounted attachments use this point on the chassis to mount to at the front, and then on the back they mount to the hydraulic point there, which enables them to be lifted up and down. Now, rear-mounted attachments are slightly different. They still use that hydraulic point to lift them up and down, but they lever off of these thick brackets on the rear axle. Unless you're one of those snazzy people who have a 3-point linkage for one of these tractors, which we would very much like for one of ours. So if you're watching this and you're selling a 3-point linkage for one of these Bolens HTs, please do get in touch with us. In addition to the attachment lift, the tractor has auxiliary hydraulic points at the front and the back. Here are the two on the front, which if you've seen any of our snowplow videos, you will have seen that we use that for the hydraulic tilt on it. Now for the two at the back, they're a bit harder to see because they're tucked neatly up here, and we've never used them, but if you've seen Joe from Steel to Woods videos, he has his hydraulic tipper trailer, which I believe runs off of those auxiliary ports. Now the front and back auxiliary ports are connected, which means if you had an attachment on the front and the back running off of them, they'd both be operating at the same time. There's no way of just operating the back one or the front one separately from the other one. Now onto the controls, and we'll start with this lever here just under the seat, which is for switching between high and low range and going into neutral on the back axle. Now this is only for Bolens HT23s. Other large frames such as the HT20 is just a single speed rear axle, and going into neutral on this one means that you can push the tractor, whereas on a single speed rear axle tractor like the HT20, there's a release valve that you have to undo before you can actually push the tractor. Now most of the controls are on this dash panel here, which to control the hydraulics, you've got this lever here for the auxiliary ports, and then this one, which is the main hydraulic lift control for the attachments. You've got 3 positions: up, down and float, which it's currently in, which means that the deck is just sitting on the floor. Then you've got a couple of gauges and instruments on here. You've got a transmission temperature warning light there and an engine oil pressure warning light, and then you've got the hour meter there as well as the ammeter. And then we've got a few switches. You've got the choke lever here, which is very helpful for starting the tractor up. Then in the center here you've got the light switch, which will only work if the ignition switch right next to it is in the on position, and obviously you need the ignition switch to start it up. Then on the far other side you've got the throttle lever there. Then if we go down here, this is where some more important controls are. This is the attachment drive lever, which starts up the PTO when you lift it up and move it across to there, and it sits on that little ledge there. Then here is the brake pedal. You push that down to engage the brakes on the rear axle, and then this is like a parking brake lever. You move that up, let go of that, and it holds the brake there, and then you push it down to release it. And then here is probably the most important control. Now you push this pedal forwards to go forwards and back to go back. From the factory, this machine would have had 3 safety features, which makes starting up the tractor a bit safer. Now this tractor is now 43 years old, and over the years people tend to remove some of these safety features to make it quicker or easier to start. Now we'll go over the 3 features and which ones have been removed on this tractor. Now the first one would be on the seat, which this one's been removed. You can see the bracket where it was mounted, but that sensor effectively meant that the tractor wouldn't start up unless you were sitting on the seat, which is a pretty good idea. Now the second one is on the brake pedal, and this one is still installed, which means that the tractor won't start unless you push down the brake pedal, which I'll demonstrate now. You can see the brake's not on, doesn't want to start unless I push that down, in which case it will start. Now the third one is if you put the attachment drive engaged, which originally from the factory, if you tried to start it up now, it wouldn't start because the PTO is engaged. However, someone's removed that on this tractor, so that would technically start with the PTO on, which is not great, especially when you've got the deck on the floor. Now, before starting one of these tractors, there's one more thing to think about, which is the fuel shut-off tap. Now, from factory, there's one fitted to the bottom of the fuel tank, which is very difficult to see and get to for working on it. You can't really see it with the camera there. The cameraman's trying his best, but you can't. Oh, there you go, you can just about see it there. However, on our HTs, we like to do a modification, which is leave the normal tap on and then put this inline tap on, which is the main fuel control. And then next to it, you can see we have this, which is the fuel primer bowl. And we've put this on there because the carburetor on this tractor is a lot higher than the bottom of the fuel tank, which can be difficult because the fuel pump has to pump the fuel up to the carburetor while the starter motor is going, putting unneeded wear on the starter motor. And we want to reduce this because the starter motor is down there. So that would be engine out to do anything with that, whether that's to repair it or fully replace it. And we don't fancy having to take the engine out anytime soon. Like any other machine, you need to check the oil levels and the fuel level. So to check the engine oil level, there's this dipstick here on the side of the engine. But then for fuel, you take off the cover and just have a look in there, make sure you've got enough fuel for however much you're going to use your machine. Now there's one more thing you need to check, which is the transmission oil level, which the dipstick is there. And this tractor has a very handy feature that a lot of people miss, which is this catch here. You slide that across, then that won't come this way and fall on you while you're filling up the back axle oil. Now we've checked all of the levels on our tractor and we're happy that they're at the correct level to start it up. So let's go through the startup procedure with you. Obviously we need to turn on our fuel tap and prime it. You can tell it's primed enough when that goes solid because it means it's full of fuel. Now we hop on the tractor, and from our experience, different engines like a different amount of choke to start. Now this one likes being on full choke until it starts up, at which point we drop it down to about a third. So let's start it up, foot on the brake, and we'll turn it over. See, it started quite nicely there. So I'll run through some of the other controls I was talking about. Now, straight after we shut off our Bolens HTs, we always turn off our fuel tap immediately, because in the past we have had a kind of siphon effect with the fuel where we've left that on and it's all gone into the carburetor and then drained down into the sump, which obviously isn't very good at all. Now, since that happened, we have rebuilt the fuel pump and the carburetor, and hopefully that is just a precaution and it won't happen again, but we still do it every time we shut it off. Now, I hope this video has been entertaining or helpful for anyone wondering how to use one of these tractors, but that is the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.